Historically, you would pay 8 to 13, 14,000 euro for a building to get analyzed from environmental point of view, where carbon would be a part of the analysis. With Carbon Checker on top of Solibri Office, the contemporary BIM coordinators will be able to conduct carbon calculations on top of their designs with almost 10 times the time efficiency of what's being done and possible to do today. My name is David Jirout. I'm the founder of Illuminum. I've been a proud user of Solibri Office since 2016. I've gone through being a regular BIM coordinator and BIM strategist, and eventually I've realized Solibri's potential for using the tool for sustainability related analyses in construction. And I have focused at Illuminum on that particular niche. Historically, we had to build cheap and effective and quickly. If you look at the architecture of the 60s to 80s, it's very utilitarian. I see construction as the world of opportunity. It should bring more than just square meters. It should bring some external value to the whole area around it. Construction brings the opportunity to revert very negative development we have seen during the last century. Today we have 420 particles per million of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. That leads itself to 3 to 4 degrees warming. The border to humanity's safe operating limit is just behind the corner. From now on, we must build carbon neutral way. Bringing this thinking and aspects and data into a BIM intelligent tool like Solibri is a very native step to do, because then we will be able to nudge architects, engineers and developers to do something more than just deliver a certain amount of brutto square meter area to rent out to their customers. So Illuminum has built Carbon Checker on behalf of Solibri. We want to bring carbon calculation to contemporary Solibri users and expand the service portfolio of contemporary BIM coordinators, BIM strategists that already have Solibri license, so they could do carbon calculations next to their regular jobs, which might be 3D coordination, metadata quality control, etc. We want to make carbon calculations cheap and available and accessible to any construction project of any budget. Historically, you would pay 8 to 13, 14,000 euro for a building to get analyzed from environmental point of view, where carbon would be a part of the analysis. With Carbon Checker on top of Solibri Office, the contemporary BIM coordinators will be able to conduct carbon calculations on top of their designs with almost 10 times the time efficiency of what's being done and possible to do today. This makes it cheaper for the industry to conduct carbon calculations. This makes it thus more accessible, and we can actually build a better picture of how much construction actually impacts the planet and do something about the design process from carbon point of view. Globally, construction faces so many challenges that I'm getting angst. We are running out of raw materials that we have historically built with. We have started to look at wood again after a century and discovered that it has carbon absorbing properties, but there's simply not enough wood to provide for, biofuel driven cars and the other industries. So, construction must be also seen with other industries. It's simply not an industry of its own, but it's also competing for resources with many other industries. So we must, since today, build in a carbon neutral way anything we do. We must provide through construction for the needs of the humanity, which are there, but we do not know how to work with resource efficiency. Construction wastes still 1/3 of its raw materials during the process. So obviously on the circularity front, we have to make improvements. To be honest, I don't know where the future of construction is headed, but taking one step at a time, we might disrupt the way we have worked in this industry. Now, when we have actually released the plugin for Carbon Checker, we can effectively and cheaply do carbon calculation. This will enable statisticians to figure out what is reasonable amount of carbon for a construction project of a certain type and what is unreasonable. Now we can actually bridge the gap using Solibri, bringing environmental data, bringing these perspectives on circularity, on biodiversity, on limiting waste, on limiting carbon directly into the BIM. I believe that Carbon Checker will create new expectations of the authorities on the construction sector. Suddenly, it's not only convenient, but it's also cheap to do carbon calculations. Not so many weeks ago, the EU Parliament has passed a new law demanding that by 2030 we restore 20% of biotope environments, both in the sea and also on land. And so we will have to support the users with, restoration of ecosystem function directly into Solibri. Finland can take the advantage of Carbon Checker directly. It has Finnish Environmental Institute CCES dataset for the rakuntamisen construction data. You can do thus carbon calculations with the dataset that SEEK has prepared for the industry. The same logic of Carbon Checker can be applied from country to country. You just bring a dataset with generic emission factors from the country into the plugin, and so country by country will be able to do their calculations. What's more important is that the architecture of Carbon Checker is quite versatile. So if we bring the list of recyclability, reusability per material and bake it into Carbon Checker, suddenly you have circularity checker, and you can empower those users on predicting waste and prohibiting baking in materials and products into their design which would not be circular and thus break the law in the future. If we take a look at the countries which are understanding sustainability equal to carbon mitigation, such as UK, such as Sweden, such as Norway, we will be able to empower those users directly by embedding their respective generic emission factors into Carbon Checker. For Sweden, the function rolls out today because we have embedded Boverket's climate database. Boverket is the Swedish housing administration, and the Swedish users will thus be able to do carbon calculations to meet the legal requirements. If we take a look at the other countries in Europe, they will be able to use the same logic behind Carbon Checker once they are finished and have published their generic emission factors for the most used materials in construction. The limitation here at the moment is availability of data in certain countries. But this development that we have in the Nordics or UK or the Netherlands is permeating and setting the expectations higher on the rest of Europe, on the rest of the world. So we'll hopefully see some systemic ripple effects, and other countries will want to catch up. If I would be a BIM coordinator today, I would be so excited because suddenly you will have a new value to bring into the society. You just go on Solution Center and get the Carbon Checker plugin, and you will be able to deliver next to your 3D coordination, metadata analysis or safety analysis also the carbon footprint of those buildings. The Carbon Checker plugin is built on basic functions of Solibri Office. If you haven't used Solibri Office before, the learning how to manipulate classifications is the very basic thing to do. So you can reach to your local educator in your country where Solibri basics are being taught, and then you will be able to use Carbon Checker in your everyday work to do carbon calculations. I believe that if you're an experienced BIM coordinator, you will be 3 to 10 times faster than traditional environmental analysts when producing carbon calculations. The society is constantly evolving its work methods. In the world of construction, the majority of staff has Excel as the most advanced tool they work with. And the new generations come with much better tool equipment such as Solibri that allows you to do so much more in making sense out of the design process. Not catching up this train is not an excuse. The traditional environmental analysts should adopt this method because they will be able to do more precisely with less time.